Hello, my name is Karen and I am an occupational therapy student at Kaiser University's MS-OT Bridge program. As part of my virtual Level 1 fieldwork experience, I am making weekly videos regarding various topics. This week is my first week for my second round of Level 1 fieldworks with a focus on the pediatric population. For this week's debriefing video, I will be answering a couple questions about what we learned this week and also how I would handle different situations. The first question is, share what you learned while completing this week's simulations. This week, we learned about doing pediatric chart reviews, as well as the differences when speaking with pediatric clients versus when speaking with their caregivers. And we also had the opportunity to read several articles regarding the differences between pediatric care and adult care. The thing that I found most interesting this week was having the chance to watch a video where a therapist was working with a pediatric client on various treatment interventions. I wasn't able to understand some of what was in the video, but it was definitely a really interesting experience to see different tools and intervention methods that I am not familiar with. I come from a background of working with the geriatric population, so this was completely the opposite end of the spectrum for me. The second question is, why is it important to share with the parent or guardian the purpose of the activities that we're seeing during the therapy session? First and foremost, when you're working with a child, it's important that their caregiver understands what's going on because it's the child's parent or caregiver. They're the ones in charge of this child, making sure that they stay safe. They're also the ones who are in charge of bringing the child to the session. So if the parent doesn't understand what's going on, they're not going to want to bring their child to the therapy session. But also, as the caregiver to the child, they have the right to know what's going on with their son or daughter or family member. So I'm going to want to make sure that I'm explaining to the parents what I'm doing during my therapy session so that they know what their child is experiencing during therapy. I also want to share the value of what we're working on and why it's important to be addressing certain activities that we are. The third question is, provide an example of what you would say to a caregiver, parent, or guardian as to what occupational therapy is. I would use a similar approach as to what I use with my adult clients, which is occupational therapy is helping you learn the skills you need for the job of living. So with the children, that's going to be helping them to engage in play. That's their most important occupation. Also, depending on their age, helping them to be able to engage in functional activities, getting dressed by themselves, children who are a little older, making sure they can do simple meal prep for themselves, teenagers helping them to be able to participate in school or start looking for work. These are all important activities that children need to be able to do in order to live a functional and meaningful childhood and help them to become productive adults later on. The final question is, how would you answer the question, so occupational therapy is like physical and speech therapy, right? If my child is doing PT, then she doesn't have to do OT, correct? I love this question because it gives us a chance to fight or advocate for our profession. So for what I tell my adult clients is occupational therapy is more function-based, whereas physical therapy is more mobility-based. I would use this same tactic when working with children. I would tell the parents, while physical therapy is going to be working with your child on being able to walk or crawl, working on their balance and their posture control so that they're able to get around and play, I'm going to be working with your child on the more functional activities, their developmental milestones, which are very important, and also working with them on their fine motor control, which is going to help them be able to hold and manipulate objects throughout their childhood and the rest of their life. You need your hands in order to be able to fully engage with everyday tasks. I'm also going to tell them the importance of meeting developmental milestones. Physical therapy works on that mobility aspect, but I'm going to be working with your child on sensory integration, on making sure they're meeting those cognition goals, and also on making sure that they're developing properly with skills such as play, gross motor, fine motor, dressing, feeding, self-care. There's a lot to address in occupational therapy that is going to lead into more of that function-based, making sure your child is able to participate every day in the things that are meaningful to them and the things that are meaningful to you. This is then when I would segue into asking the parent, what's your goal for your child? What do you want them to be able to do? And once they tell me those goals, I would make sure to tell them how occupational therapy is a good choice in helping them to be able to meet those goals. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to the next 8 weeks together as I continue on this journey into the pediatric setting.